My Borrowed Son. Chapter 36. Reunited. Lynn felt her heart racing, but forced herself to walk slowly with each individual step, as if nothing was amiss. She could hear her sister complaining loudly that the lid to her cage had been left open, and that a treat she'd left in there was missing. Lynn's insides twisted, knowing that she was referring to Parker, but she choked it down. Besides, she had a plan for her ruthless sister anyway. She was prepped and ready for it. As soon as Lynn entered the kitchen, the smell of marinara sauce wafting through the air and simmering meatballs in the crock pot, Rachel turned her bitter gaze onto her sister.
You! Did you go into my room and mess with my cage?
Rachel demanded.
It had to be you.
Lynn gave a shrug and washed her hands in the nearby sink before glancing over her shoulder at her sister. I did go into your room earlier because my switch was missing and saw your animal cage was open, said Lynn. It was true. She'd gone in there earlier because Rachel had a bad habit of taking her things when she was grounded from her own. And I also saw your live bait box and the little critters you've been feeding that lizard of yours. Their parents, who were working together to prepare dinner, turned in sync toward Rachel, who was completely pale as the blood drained from her face.
You have no right coming into my room,
Rachel spat. And you have no right taking my things and using live bait to feed that thing. I saw the legs in there, Rachel. That's sick and twisted, tormenting animals to death with that thing. Lynn shot back. Both of you, settle down, instructed their father. Lynn, did you find your switch in Rachel's room? Yes, sir, she replied.
liar.
Why would I lie about that? It was under your mattress by the footboard. I took a picture and everything, said Lynn as she pulled out her phone and pulled up the picture with the timestamp.
It's not fair. My switch is the only time I get to spend with my friends,
argued Rachel. And your punishment for skipping school last week on Wednesday because you had a test was a direct repercussion of your action. Rachel, we've talked about this, sighed their mother.
Mom, I didn't skip school,
Rachel insisted. Oh, Rachel, it's on the school cameras and your teacher's taking attendance, said their dad as he joined them at the kitchen island. What do we say? Honesty is the best policy. If you're big enough to do it, own it. We wouldn't have these discussions as often as we do if you were forthright. So, be honest. Have you been giving your lizard live creatures again? And did you take Lynn's switch knowing it was taken away as punishment?
But she...
Rachel's sputtering earned a headshake and a sigh from both of her parents. It was their mother who snagged Rachel by the arm and guided her into the living room, where Lynn knew her sister was about to get another lecture. Her father sighed and sat heavily into the chair at the island. He was obviously trying to cobble together the right words that would encourage Rachel to be a more upstanding citizen. It was the perfect opportunity for Lynn to jump in. Dad? Yes. He looked at his daughter with exhausted eyes. It was obvious this was the last thing that he wanted to be dealing with after a long day of work. Sorry, I wasn't going to bring it up in a group setting, stated Lynn. I was going to tell you and Mom after dinner. No, it's all right. We need to handle this sooner than later. Thank you for being honest with me, her father said. It made Lynn cringe internally as she knew she was about to cover part of the truth with what she was about to say. Her father went to stand and join her mother in the living room when Lynn seized the opportunity.
And actually, I wanted to ask if I could ask a quick favor,
stated Lynn. Her dad's prompting look told her to keep it brief so he could join Lynn's mother in the living room.
Well, remember Parker, my classmate? We're working on a project together, and part of the project is building a model about hearing sounds in outer space. We have to test a homemade vacuum chamber thing. I've built my part of it, and Parker needs to test it.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, you already know about no sound being in space, her father said.
Yeah, but we're testing the best supplies to make your own space vacuum, and which ones best simulate lack of sound in space, pointed out Lynn. Anyway, since Parker is a bit fragile, I can't give it to him at school. And I can't just send everything via mail because it might damage our project. So, would it be okay if his mom stopped by and picked up the supplies? She's on her way home from work and would only be in for a minute. Promise.
Her father gave her a keen look as his mind processed the request. It is a bit odd to have her come over so late, but I don't see the issue with it. Make sure she knows the passcode for the main gate, agreed her father. Lynn breathed a sigh of relief and nodded.
Yes, sir, she said. I've got everything together pretty much, so I'll finish up making dinner here.
Is Parker coming with her? If we get this situation handled, we could invite the two of them for dinner, suggested her father. Lynn grinned to herself as she thought about her parents' reaction to seeing Parker in her room, let alone his size, but shook her head.
No, probably not. He's been really busy working on some independent projects and stuff like that, so he's probably neck deep in it. Plus, his mom is coming from work. She's probably anxious to get home. But maybe I can extend the invite, if that's okay? Lynn suggested.
That sounds like a pleasant idea. I keep hearing about this Parker kid. About time I shook his hand and see if he's as big and great as his reputation, which you keep praising, said her father, before pushing himself up and bracing himself for what waited for him in the living room. Already, Lynn could hear raised voices.
You have no idea the irony of that statement. At least Parker is that big in spirit.
With that, Lynn was left alone to help finish dinner preparations while her father retreated to the living area to assist her mother. Lynn did feel a bit bad that her sister was entering her rebellious phase and was getting into trouble regularly. But all of these outbursts and retaliations were manifesting into very troubling behaviors. Her lizard didn't require live food. That is what Rachel insisted on until her parents found out that it wasn't a requirement, that they could cut off paying for it. Her little sister was doing it because she liked it. Or so Lynn feared because of the look Rachel would get in her eyes when feeding her lizard squirming prey. The same went for her ditching school and skipping the work she needed to accomplish, opting to play games or find other ways for them to get together. It was a weird time, and Lynn didn't envy her parents for bringing down a little more pressure and hoping it was the right thing to get Rachel under control. She didn't have time to worry about that now, though. Lynn quickly texted Parker's mom the go-ahead while stirring the noodles. Her phone chirped a reply as she drained the angel hair pasta and mixed it into the sauce. The text read that Amanda would be here in about 15 minutes. It wasn't a lot of time to say goodbye, but she would get to see him the next day. Amanda promised, after all. On the other side of the screen, Amanda was practically jumping for joy. She had thrown on some clothes, twice putting it on backwards, and fumbled with her purse to get out of the door quickly. With the distance and the information Parker and Lynn had given, Amanda had an idea of exactly what neighborhood Parker was in at the moment. While she waited for the signal, a million scenarios ran through Amanda's head. The debate of a worried mother and whether or not to instill a consequence for running away was the main concern for her. How could she punish the son she'd been so worried about finding for so long? How could she feel anything other than grateful that he was all right? The right words would come, and, naturally, it would be a conversation between her and Parker about how they were going to move forward. For the moment, however, she was simply grateful he was alive, and that he still wanted her to be his mom. The phone in her trembling hands chimed, the engine roared to life, and, address plugged in, Amanda was instantly driving down the road. Sure enough, the neighborhood was the exact one that Amanda thought it was. The gated community was one she had actually considered for a short time when she was looking for homes. But the price was just a bit much for her to maintain comfortably. Besides, the house she really envisioned herself living in with Parker was the one she had picked. Amanda weaved through the streets and past the gates and speed bumps until, finally, the house was in sight. Like a glowing beacon in the night, Amanda saw the exterior of the house aglow with solar-powered push lamps all the way up the walk and fresh soil around plants. A mixture of brick, vinyl, and stone. It was a beautiful home in a nice part of town. There was something about seeing the house that made Amanda pause. Her heart was pounding hard and strong. Her nerves felt jittery all over. And yet, she knew she had to pretend that everything was part of the status quo. It would be a challenge because she knew she looked like a wreck. But Amanda could blame it on work hours recently. Figuring out a solid reason, however, wasn't the thing that was on Amanda's mind. It was time to get her son back. Her hands trembled as she pulled the keys from the ignition and exited the car. Every step felt heavy as she followed the walk up to the house. Just on the other side of the door, Lynn was upstairs preparing a box of believable material for her and Parker's science project, while also preparing a space for him to hide in case her parents wanted to see their project so far. They didn't have a lot of time, but the two of them got everything together in a flash, and just in time as well. As Lynn placed the last things into the box, which included Parker's backpack and clothing fragments, there was a clear knock on the front door. Both her and Parker glanced at her bedroom door before looking back at one another. "I guess this is it," Lynn muttered. "I'm going to come see you tomorrow, if you're still all right with that."
"Definitely," smiled Parker. "You've got my address?"
"Yep."
"And you'll let me know when you're on your way?"
"Absolutely."
"Hey, Lynn?"
"Yeah?"
"Thanks."
Parker looked up into his friend's face, cheeks warm while his stomach filled with butterflies. "Anytime." Lynn smiled. As she looked at him, a spark of mischief filled her eyes as she kissed the tip of her finger and tapped the crown of Parker's head with it. He was bright scarlet and seemed to short-circuit as she fished her fingers under his arms and set him into the box. She had closed the lid before he said anything in response, and, as he felt the box shuffle, he took his hiding place. His nerves were starting to get to him as he heard muffled voices, one of them without a doubt in his mind belonging to his mom. The voices were muffled, but he heard the entire conversation all the same.
"Hello, Ms. Silverstein? I'm Lynn. It's nice to meet you," said Lynn.
"Oh, hello. It's nice to meet you too. Parker's told me a lot about you," said his mom. Parker felt a pang in his heart. He knew his mom well enough to hear even the slightest tremor in her voice. She was barely holding it together, and Parker was in the same boat as her.
"Oh, all good, I hope,"
said Lynn. He heard his mom chuckle, nerves evident to him. "Always good," she replied. There was a slightly awkward pause before Lynn jumped back into the conversation.
"Well, I know you have to get home. Parker was telling me that work has been busy and that the move has been even crazier. So here is our project. Pieces are fragile and everything, but I know it'll get home safe," stated Lynn. "Tell Parker that he needs to try out cardboard, drywall, and one other item for our project, okay?"
"I certainly will try to remember. Thank you, Lynn," Parker's mom replied. "Well, you and your son are more than welcome for dinner any time," chimed in Lynn's mom. Parker heard the shuffle of feet and felt the box shift ever so slightly, probably from Lynn's mom giving his mom a hug of sorts.
"Certainly,"
she said. "We'll have to try and put something on the books once Parker and I get settled."
"Oh, and I almost forgot. I was wondering if I could come by tomorrow and work on the project with Parker. If not, that's all right,"
Lynn said, piping up. There was another brief pause before all of the parents seemed to agree. "I don't see why not if it's all right with you, Ms. Silverstein," said Lynn's father.
"Amanda, please. And yes, I think that would be all right. Tomorrow around lunch would be best," replied Amanda. "Now, I hate to intrude for too much longer, but I do need to get back home. Thank you so much, Lynn, for helping Parker with this project." "Of course. What are friends for?" grinned Lynn.
Parker felt the box shaking slightly and guessed, based on the pace, that his mom was carrying him safely back to the car. After everything during this massive misadventure, Parker was finally going home. On the other side of the box, Amanda had never walked so carefully, yet so quickly, in all her life. She knew she shouldn't linger outside of Lynn's home for too long, but she couldn't wait another second to see her son. She needed to lay eyes on him and see him. These past days had been a waking hell, and the only relief would come with seeing Parker in front of her. As she sat down in her car and set the box in her lap, her hands trembled as she placed them on the cardboard lid. It opened on a hinge, and, in the dim evening light, revealed nothing but random pieces and parts. It honestly looked like a pile of junk meant for this science experiment that Lynn was talking about. Nerves clutched at Amanda's insides as she worried that she might have been tricked. But then the slightest movement out of the corner of the box filled her with relief. Like a refreshing rain after a scorching day, seeing that familiar tuft of blonde-brown hair and those soft brown eyes looking up at her made Amanda's heart clench. Tears filled her eyes once more as she choked on a sob as she tried to say the name of the one person who meant the world to her. It didn't come to her, and instead, she simply lowered her hand, level to the rim of the box. At the same time, Parker felt his entire body lock up. He looked up into his mom's face and felt every emotion wash over him. He was ashamed and relieved, excited and nervous.
and overall filled with the love he had always had for his mom. His eyes stung as he pushed himself out from his hiding place and stood up, body shaking. "Mom!" Parker's throat closed as he looked up at his tear-stained-faced mother. "Parker!" His limbs moved on their own. Parker stumbled over the items in the box and threw himself over the edge into his mom's hands. The box was shoved into the passenger seat as Amanda pulled Parker up to her chest and held him close. Though his arms would never reach, he threw his arms as wide as they could go as he pressed himself against his mom's chest. Her thunderous heartbeat was discernible even from where he was, and Parker had never missed something so much in all of his life. The two of them sobbed with relief, collapsing into one another as they were finally reunited. It felt like an hour, when surely it was only a few minutes, as Amanda held Parker close to her chest. His tiny form shook with sobs as he apologized over and over again, his little voice muffled in the shirt she was wearing. Amanda felt Parker shift back, and she pulled her hand away to get a better view of her son. The first thing she noticed was the fact he was wearing an entirely different outfit. It looked like some kind of oversized sweatsuit, but the look suited him overall. The other thing that caught her eye was the faint bruising on his cheek and on his hand. "Parker, are you okay? You're not hurt, are you?" Amanda shifted Parker onto one hand as she gently lifted his arm and pressed her fingers against his back. His little wince confirmed her fears. Well, I did get a bit banged up, but Lynn helped patch everything, so I'm okay, really," Parker insisted. Instantly, her hackles raised. "How did you get hurt? Parker, what happened?" Amanda pushed. Parker, while sitting there cross-legged in his mom's palm, slumped his shoulders before grabbing at the bottom of the long-sleeve hoodie and pulling it off of his frame. Immediately, Amanda saw the bandages on his arm and hand, as well as more bruising. "Parker! Mom, it's okay. Lynn didn't do this, but her sister, she did," replied Parker. How? It's not broken, right?" insisted Amanda. Parker shook his head. His heart was hammering a hole through his bruised ribs, and he swallowed dryly. He didn't want to talk about it right now because his mom would undoubtedly charge right back inside and demand that Rachel be punished. So he took a breath and gazed back into her eyes. "Mom, can we talk about it back at home, please? And I'll tell you everything, I promise," said Parker. Amanda could hear the hurt in her son's voice and felt her heart ache as the decision was placed before her. She made her decision. "Very well, but I want to hear everything, Parker," said his mom. Parker smiled and nodded. "Yes, ma'am," he said as he reached up and crossed his heart with his pinky. Amanda felt herself choking up again as she pulled Parker back against her chest. "Oh, Parker, I was so worried. I missed you so much," Amanda breathed. "I missed you too, Mama," sniffled Parker. "I love you. And I'm so sorry for what I said. I didn't..." "Shh. I know. I love you too, Parker. I've always loved you so very much." Amanda slowly put her car into gear, backed out of the driveway, and began the short drive home. The weight of Parker's tiny form in her hand was what kept Amanda grounded.
and it wasn't until the two of them crossed the threshold of their home that it felt real. Parker was here. Parker was home. Alive and, for the most part, well, albeit a little banged up. She walked up to her room and set Parker down onto her bed, curling up beside him as she hunkered down and prepared herself to hear about his journey. Parker had a hard time starting, unable still to completely verbalize his emotions and reasons why he acted so impulsively. He talked about how he felt confused and angry. He was convinced he needed to do something and find the truth on his own. But the journey wasn't what he thought it would be. Parker confessed remembering moments of his past, even remembering his mom and what might have happened to his dad, as well as finding the little marker that was probably meant for him that read Zeke in the park. From there, Parker felt himself getting choked up as he told his mom about seeing her in the park. He saw her across the way, and he tried to run to her when he was abducted. He told his mom that he had been shoved into the girl's water bottle, and that he'd been tormented by her as he tried to get away. It was then that Parker removed the hoodie once again and explained how he got the injuries he did. He told her that the girl's bearded dragon had grabbed his arm and had given him a good scare. He showed her the finger-sized bruises on his legs that Rachel, Lynn's sister, gave to him. Then, finally, he told his mom about how Lynn had literally saved his life. Parker told his mom about how Lynn knew about borrowers, and that there was a whole community of people who actually thought borrowers existed, and that some of his own circle suspected he was a borrower, but had no true evidence to confirm it. Amanda listened quietly most of the time, but the other portion consisted of Amanda nearly leaving right then and there to give Rachel a piece of her mind. Parker insisted that Lynn had already started taking care of that, and would continue to do so. They could only hope that Rachel learned her lesson as she got older. When Parker was finished, he cleared his tense throat and apologized once more.
Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean the things I said, and I shouldn't have said them. I did the one thing you were trying to avoid. And I promise I won't do something like that again.
Amanda looked down at her son's defeated frame as he looked so small and hurt. She knew she needed to enact consequences despite everything he had gone through, but the punishment needed to fit the crime.
I know you're sorry, Parker. And I'm sorry too. I only ever wanted to love and protect you. And I should have found another way to go about it,
sighed Amanda.
Still, what you did was wrong. Running away put yourself in so much danger and worried not only me, but the others living here. Everyone was worried about you. And I have a sneaking suspicion that they're listening right now.
Parker felt the hair raise on the back of his neck, and he turned toward the trim piece his mom was eyeing just in time to see it shift close. The teenage borrower smirked to himself.
Even now, they're still looking out for me, just like my mom. I guess they were worried and didn't end up leaving.
Parker looked back at his mom and nodded, mumbling,
I know,
before feeling his chest clench. So, I think it's only fair that your online privileges should be limited, as well as your alone time and your space for creating and so forth. You can earn these privileges back with trust and action. Fair? Asked Amanda. Parker nodded. He was afraid that she was going to say that, like before, he was going to be on total lockdown and that he wouldn't be able to see Lynn the next day.
Yes, Mama. I promise I won't do it again, ever. I did it for the wrong reasons. I thought I was going to find something or feel something, but I didn't. I'll do whatever I can to earn back your trust,
said Parker. Amanda felt it already in her heart. She knew the punishment probably wouldn't last long. She heard the remorse in her son's voice and knew he wouldn't do anything like this again. Still, she needed him to know it wasn't okay. As relief filled her, Amanda once again leaned forward and cupped her son in her hands. He situated himself and laid against her palm, hugging her thumb close to his chest.
I missed you so much, Parker. I was so worried.
I missed you too, Mom,
said the infinitesimal boy.
I love you.
I love you too. So much.
It didn't matter that neither of them had brushed their teeth or had prepared to go to bed. Curled together with Parker on her chest, much like when he was a child, the two exhausted members of the Silverstein family fell asleep cradled in one another's arms with the lamp still on. It would be hours before either of them stirred, and even then, they simply changed position, turned off the lights, and went right back to sleep. The next day was going to be the start of a new life for the both of them. More was known. More was going to be learned. This experience changed them, and now they knew it was for the better.